Hey Seth, can you hear us?
Yeah, can you hear me?
It's nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Is there anything you can tell us about yourself?
I teach art at Westside High School in Anderson, and I went to Anderson University for the last 12 years. And before that, I grew up in North Dakota, so I like the weather down here more. But
How did you end up
um,
here for school?
yeah, so my grandparents retired from Minnesota, moved to Anderson of all places, and then I saw Anderson University had an art program, so I thought it was a good way to get my plan was to be here for 4 years, see a new culture, and then I was going to go back north. But my family followed me, and they actually live in Greer now. So I just stuck around. My wife is from North Carolina, because we met at school. So I'm more at home in the South now than I was there.
So I wanted to just tell you a little bit about how this show came together. We wanted to create an opportunity for artists to submit work and make it accessible, so that we could show work that was, from a huge sector of the community that otherwise may not participate in exhibitions. That's why it's virtual. Also, because of COVID-19 right now, we are thinking about programming very differently. And at the time that we started thinking about all of everything going on politically and what that meant, Anthony, who, as he said, was one of our Brandon Fellows, was sharing some really powerful imagery from protests. And it just was it said so much without having to use words, and we felt like that was really the strength of creating art, is that we can express so much visually. So that's how the work came together. And so we got together then as a committee to select the pieces that we really wanted to know more about. And so yours was one of those. The title of your piece is Ignorance Was Bliss. Ben's going to share that on the screen so that we can be looking at it while we are asking you questions. So Ben, do you want to get us started with your question for Seth?
Yeah. I kind of wanted to know more about, the symbolism behind, some of the aspects in here, in the painting itself. So mainly, you can obviously see the white privilege in the back, and then juxtaposed in front of it is the black blindfold and the Indian's ball cap. Now, I kind of just wanted to know a little bit more on the decisions made there. And
Okay. The blindfold obviously plays into the ignorance portion, temporary blindness. I didn't have my eyes gouged out, so it's more like I'm choosing to wear this, or it's covering my eyes, so it could be removed. I didn't put much thought into the fact that it was black on the white background. That's just something that kind of happened, I guess. I tend to do all of my pieces with white backgrounds. I just really appreciate the negative space, but I try to fill them subtly with something. And so I use metallic paint on these words, so they're not always visible from where you're looking, but they're still there, just to kind of activate the space more, and just to kind of make it clear, like what this is about. It's my realization that I have been privileged as a white male, and I've been ignorantly blind to that and okay with it. Like, ignorance is bliss, but it can't be anymore. And then the Indian's cap, being grown up in North Dakota, our diversity was more whites and Native Americans. And so that was just another, they're not the focus right now, but it was like an ode to another people group that was very mistreated. And I'm fearful, like, if we don't wake up and do something, like, could we end up in that direction? So it was more of a just raising awareness for, we have a history of this, and I don't want it to continue to repeat.
What's the medium you're using?
It's all watercolor except for my t-shirt. I actually drew that with Prism marker first so that I could paint the flag over it, but that's why it's kind of transparent. You can see the wrinkles underneath it. But everything else is done with watercolor, including the letters. It's just metallic watercolor.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, it's really beautifully painted. And I wanted to ask something from the statement that you submitted. So the statements were part of what artists were asked to submit. And part of what you wrote was, and I'm quoting you here, "I hope to cause conviction, forcing self-reflection, and ultimately making real, meaningful change in America." So my question is, how do you think that artists can make real change or be part of it? And how are you personally making more meaningful change?
Initially, I do a lot of self-portraits, and they tend to be something that I'm dealing with, but also feel like it's relatable to others. And so for this piece, like following the George Floyd incident, I was kind of like, oh, here we go again. Like, how could somebody do that? And just kind of a very nonchalant attitude toward it, almost like annoyed, but not understanding the depth of what was happening. And not long after that, I listened to a podcast called Catlick by B.T. Harmon. And it was just incredibly eye-opening to, like, okay, I live in a country as a white male that was built by white males for white people to succeed. And like the domino effect through history that has gotten us here. And like, we're still dealing with this and not fixing it. And so I had to confess to myself and through this piece to everyone else, like, okay, I have been privileged. This is my confession. So now the next step is, what are the changes? And so in the meantime, I've been trying to learn more about like, what is the Black experience versus the white one? And, where are those areas that we've been ignorant of, and how are we systematically feeding the problems? And then as we get awareness within, my realm, there's, as an artist, I can create imagery that I hope speaks to people and motivates people to change. In my classroom, I just trying where I can, have a platform with students, because really that's where the biggest change is going to happen, is with the next generations learning from our mistakes and building a better world. I look at my son, he's only 3.5, but like I can teach him differently. So those are some like real immediate things. Since this has happened, I've actually been asked to be the lead artist for initially it was a Black Lives Matters mural in Anderson, but we've changed it to be more, we want it to be motivating for generations to come, not just addressing something that's happening now. Like, that's very relevant right now, but we want to go beyond that. And so we're creating this mural, and we're gonna, it's gonna be next summer, but we're starting the planning now. But we're gonna do it in installations and pieces, and then with each section that we kind of unveil, we're gonna have an event that creates some kind of educational moment with different speakers, or we've taught spoken word, music, to try and get the community of Anderson to come together and actually learn about our past and then motivate for a new future and kind of go on a journey together. So that's been cool to sit down with the team of Black artists, because they're giving me like, what is the Black experience? And I'm learning a lot about that. And we're going to try and put that into this mural so that it means something long-term and can make major changes in our community.
So a couple of things I want to make sure we follow up on for the audience that is seeing this interview. The blog, or not the blog, but the podcast that you mentioned.
Yeah.
I'd like to be able to share that, and also the events and the plans for the murals in Anderson. If there's a group that we can share or information we can share for our audience, I think that would be great follow-up.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for answering that. And so that the third question is from Anthony.
Okay.
Hey, so I appreciate your work. This painting is it's well executed, and it's by far one of the best pieces that we've received. Was there a particular point in which your views towards social change, facilitated the creation of this art piece? Like, what happened that facilitated? What happened in your life that made you want to create this?
I mean, really, it was that podcast, but it was a particular episode. It was, I think it's episode 8. But anyway, it opens up talking about a textbook in Alabama that was still being taught into the 80s. And there was a chapter where they glamorize the plantation life as if it were like the best days in the history of Alabama. And I mean, that was startling in itself, because like I'm 31, I was born in 89, so I'm like, okay, that was within my lifetime that was being taught in a classroom. But later on in that episode, he refers back to, I think it's Fulton County in northern Georgia. Up until the 90s was an all-white county. And so I think Oprah in her younger days, it was like 87, decides to go, and there was a march on this city. And but she said, she was a reporter at the time. This was before her big show. But anyway, she can remember she's just walking through the street, like a 10-year-old yells at her, like, "You don't belong here, you N-word." And like that just hit me so hard, because I was thinking, like, all right, so if he's 10 in 1987, he's like 50 right now, and he's probably raising kids. And like, racism isn't something you're born with, it's taught to you. And so, like, no, I'm not saying things like that, and I've always tried to treat everyone as equally as possible, but I had to admit, like, there are things I've been very ignorant to. And I know that I'm not the only one. Like, my whole family kind of falls under this category. And I just think so many white people feel like this isn't my problem because I'm not doing anything. I'm not the bad person. But it's like, we kind of are. You just don't necessarily realize it. So it's more of a confession. I want everyone to like pause for a second and self-reflect and think, okay, well, does that apply to me too? And if so, why? So that was kind of that moment where I felt like, okay, I need to do something.
Well, thank you so much for sharing with us.
Yeah. Yeah, I do have a website. It's just SethScheving.com. And then I have an Instagram hand is at Seth nonetheless. I post most of my work. This particular piece is actually at the Spartanburg Arts Collective right now for their fall show, so you could go see it in person. And I'm actually working on one. It's supposed to be a pair, because I want to do one next to it titled The Black Experience, and I'm still trying to research what's going to go into that. But ideally I'd like them to be hung together, so I'm hoping to have that done by the spring. Thanks for having me on here. I've never done anything like this before.
Neither have we.
Yeah, we're all learning.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Have a good night.
Hey, you too. Thank you.